The image here is of that firearm being pointed at our deputy in the hallway. We'll provide a copy of this to you as well as the body cam footage, just so you have a reference of what I'm speaking of when I said they pointed a firearm at our deputy. What do we know? On March 25th, 2024, a county judge issued a writ of possession commanding the sheriff's office to remove all persons from the address in the 6000 block of Indrio Road and turn the property over to the owners. Deputies with our civil execution unit served that warrant around 1:30 earlier in that day and removed Evans from the property. The owners took possession of the property, changed the locks on the doors, and left the residence there shortly later. They returned to the residence around 6 p.m. and the owners contacted the sheriff's office and said that Evans had broken back into the house and was there. Deputies then respond back to the residence where they encountered Evans, told him again, you have to leave. They've spoke to him, they pled with him. Ultimately, Evans decided to not cooperate and close the door on the deputies. The deputies, having the key to the residence from the new owners, opened the front door. When they opened that front door, you see the image of what they saw. Evans standing in the hallway pointing a firearm at the deputies. The deputies yelled out to Evans to drop the firearm multiple times. They took a position of cover, he took a position of cover, and then he stepped out from cover again, pointing the firearm at the deputies, where one round was fired, striking Evans. Evans was then taken into custody. He was provided life-saving efforts by our deputies. They applied a tourniquet until St. Lucie County Fire Rescue came and transported him to a local hospital where he's in stable condition. Currently, he's still in the hospital in stable condition under guard. Ultimately, this could have been avoided had Evans complied with the court order he was served with earlier in the day, evicting him from the residence. Evans chose to return to the residence and break in through the back door. He then chose to not cooperate with deputies to vacate the residence for a second time. Instead of complying with the court order, Evans chose to point a firearm at our deputies. And the only thing to expect doing that is to be shot. Evans, again, is currently in custody at the Longwood Hospital. 3 counts of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer and 1 count of armed burglary. We'll provide the body cam footage. We'll provide some documents that led up to this. And we are still in active investigation, so we're kind of limited on what we can talk about. But with that, I'm going to pass it over to Captain Norman, who heads our Criminal Investigations Division. He might be able to give you a little bit more detailed of the specific incidents if the investigation allows that. So with that, I'll pass it over to Captain Norman.
Good afternoon. Do we have any questions?
Captain Dave Bowman, WPTV. In terms of Mr. Evans, is there any known criminal record or any known issues of mental illness that you can talk
There
about?
is no criminal record that we could find. He did have an RPO earlier, I think in 2019.
Could you tell me what an RPO is?
Risk protection order.
Okay.
So there are a little bit of signs that there has been some issues in the past with him.
One other follow-up to this. He's at Longwood Hospital. This year there have been a couple of escapes. Now I know he's obviously injured there. Has that had you take maybe extra precautions to try to avoid it, considering there have been a couple of incidents involving prisoners?
So Mr. Evans is currently under the security of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. He is being guarded by sheriff's deputies. Those other cases were not involving anybody we were guarding.
Victoria with CBS 12 News. Why was there a court order to get him out of the building that he was residing in?
This stemmed from a foreclosure action on the residence, and it was kind of a lengthy process that the new owners went through to get him out of the residence.
How many times had they tried to get him out of the residence?
It actually started, I believe, in 19, or I don't have it directly in front of me, but 23. They started the process in 23, getting the foreclosure and going through that whole process. They were hoping to work with Mr. Evans, hoping that he would finally leave the residence, but he did not. He refused.
So just the timeline, around 1 o'clock you guys went there to essentially forcefully remove him from the residence, and he left, locks were changed, and he breaks in at some point. You guys are called by the new owner, I guess the new owners, to come back and, I guess, remove him again. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just one shot was fired by the deputy?
Single shot was fired by the deputy.
And Mr. Evans, was his firearm real, or was it like fake, or?
We are currently still processing the firearm, so we're not going to get too much more into the actual firearm.
How do you spell his name?
We'll be able to provide you all the information at the conclusion of this.
To be clear, Mr. Evans never fired from his gun?
Correct.
What's the procedure when you have to, I guess, evict someone? Do you normally always go with the landlord? Is there, how does that work when it comes to eviction?
Every situation is different when we're responding to some type of eviction. Depends on the relationship and depends on the paperwork that we have from the courts.
All right, step in for a second. You know, what the property owners did was they went through the court process. They went to a judge, they had multiple hearings. This order that we received from the county judge was a final eviction order. The order commanded sheriff's office to remove whatever persons were at that residence and turn the property over to the owner of it. So this was a court order that we were only following. So this owner of the property went through the civil process, which was lengthy, went through all the hearings, did all the proper procedures to properly evict this person from their property, and was ultimately granted by a county judge. The county judge then gave us an order, which we'll provide to you as well, commanding us to remove anybody at that property and turn that property back over to the original owner. So this wasn't a 7-day eviction. This wasn't a quarrel that happened shortly. This has been a lengthy process that all parties have been involved in. But the owners of the property did the right thing. They went through the proper procedures. They went to every court hearing. They filed the proper documents, and the judge gave them an order to give to us to serve on anybody at that residence, giving them their property back. So this is a little different than what we've seen recently about the squatters. This is more of a eviction. They were there, so some of the news or some of the new media that you've seen about the squatter laws, this wouldn't apply to that, because there was a contract. There was people living there. This went through the court process for the eviction. So this is not one of those squatter incidents that we've seen a lot lately.
So when you approached him, he came back, he broke into the apartment,
Yes, ma'am.
and then he pointed his gun at the deputy.
Yes, ma'am. He actually talked to deputies for a little while, and then he had enough, shut the door, and when they opened the door, he was holding a firearm pointing it at him.
Is there a reason why he decided to stay and come back, even though there was those court orders?
So we'll be having conversations with him a little bit later on today, and we're going to try to get some of those answers.
Was this a multi-unit building, and was he the only one that was pushing back on eviction? Were any others evicted prior days, weeks, or months to this?
For this actual
Yeah.
apartment
Yeah.
type, no, there's no one else. It was just him.
Had he been was he a renter there for a period of months or years?
I'll answer that question. I'm just going to circle back to yours. So from what we understand, what we gathered, these individual units are privately owned. And the private person had purchased the unit through a foreclosure quite some time ago. He was a previous tenant or resident of there, and since the new owners had purchased it through a foreclosure, they've been dealing with the process of evicting him, and that process is dating back to 2023.
So this isn't the entire apartment
No.
complex? This is one unit?
This is one unit that's owned by an individual or a corporation. Doesn't affect the rest of the individual apartments there. And Will, what was your question?
No, I can't remember.
Okay, we'll circle back.
What was the name of the apartment complex?
I believe it was Indian Pines Apartments. It's the 6,000 block of Indrio Road.
Indian Pines.
I believe it. Yes.
And where was he shot?
I'll let Captain Norman answer that question.
Mr. Evans was struck in the hand and the arm.
And only one shot was fired from the deputy.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's struck two places though?
And arm.
So he was pointing the gun and you shot him.
We'll release the video and we'll let you be the judge of
You'll
that.
be able to see the video and see what our deputies saw when they opened the door and encountered the male.
In terms of the deputy that discharged his weapon, is he back to duty, administrative leave?
Yeah, so mental health is a big thing. This is a traumatic situation for anybody to go through, including the deputy and other residents in that neighborhood. Per our standard, the deputy's on administrative leave. We're going to get him, he's going to speak to a mental health physician as part of our procedure, just to make sure that he's okay, that he's prepared to return to duty. But as soon as he's ready, I'm prepared to put him back on the streets. Again, this deputy put his self in the line to protect our community, and we're extremely proud of him.
Can you describe, and I know you don't want to release his name, but could you describe some of the things that this deputy's done specifically that earned him these commendations that you talked about?
I don't have his file is extremely lengthy. Being here over 10 years, has the different commendations and awards for different things. He did start his career here in the Department of Detention, where he earned his combat injury award from being injured by being attacked by one of the individuals that we had incarcerated. He suffered a severe injury. So that's one of our highest awards that an individual can get. The community loves him. His team loves him. The other deputies love him. Like I said, he's an amazing deputy. He's exactly what everybody would want when they call 911, to have this deputy or this type of deputy respond and come to their time of need.
And is there an internal affairs investigation? Is that proper protocol since there was a deputy involved shooting?
It'll be reviewed as soon as we haven't even had a chance to interview the suspect to see what his mind frame was. Him still being in the hospital, I'm sure he's medicated. So we want to make sure that whenever we do talk to him, that we're getting a clear understanding of why didn't you just comply? Why didn't you just follow the court order? So those are questions that we still have. Again, we put a message out on social media last night within an hour of our officer actually discharging his firearm, just to let people know. And here we are at record speed trying to get the information to you guys so that you could spread it out to the community.
So the internal
Will follow here shortly, but there will be an internal review of the incident to make sure that our policies were followed. But again, the initial on-site looking at it, again, the deputy did an amazing job.
After he gets released from the hospital, the 63-year-old gentleman, he'll be taken to jail on 3 counts of aggravated assault on Leo and 1 count of burglary.
Yes, sir. So as the 3 counts goes to, we had multiple deputies on scene, but when he pointed the firearm through the door, we had 3 deputies standing there. We had 1 to the left of him, 1 to the right, and then the deputy that discharged his firearm was in the center, was the straight line of fire. Dan?
Yeah, one question. The new laws that are being put out by Governor DeSantis, would that in this situation make it any easier going forward for this type of thing? Making these safer in terms of evictions for bad tenants, squatters, things like that?
So from what we understand, that law just came out, so we're still interpreting it. We're going to see how we're going to apply it and how we're going to roll that policy out. But again, this situation is completely different. This is a tenant who was lawfully there and didn't want to leave, and the owners went through the proper process, the courts of evicting it. The squatters is more of somebody, you go on vacation and somebody takes over your house and claims that they have rights. So anytime that there was a legal tenant that transfers to a dispute or a civil action, that doesn't apply to the squatter scenario that I understand. Now again, we're still in the process of reviewing those laws and understanding it, but we also want to make sure we don't want to just go out there and do something. We want to make sure that our deputies have the proper guidance and the proper tools to deal with squatters. But we will hold squatters accountable. We will remove them if it falls within the guidance of the law.
Thank you.
Angela, you had another question? We're all set? All right. Well, any other questions that you guys have, our PIO will get you just get it from her. We'll try to provide you with as much information as we can with it. Again, thank you guys for coming out on such short notice. Is it on topic?
Yeah, I got one last question.
Okay.
Same question as last time. How come you or Tanya won't talk to me or answer my phone calls?
All right. Well, Will, thank you for coming out here. I hope we can answer any questions that you have, and we'll talk to you guys here in the future.
That was the question I had.
Thank you, Will.
So as you can see, guys, the situation, we were in a position where we had to
So I know you said, I know you didn't answer me, but you told me to text you for the body cam video and stuff.
Hello, family?
And the other documents that have the gentleman's name. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about the hold up.
Tanya, I wanted to say hi in person. I'm Victoria. Oh, I got a sticker. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
I
meet
already
you
texted you
too.
with my email.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Squatters. I did that story yesterday. I'm like, now I'm all caught up on the squatter.
Do we have time?
Yeah, because